In the last class, we have had the introduction to the email, what we expect in the email task or write an email task of the writing section. We introduced that the email task is going to give us such kind of scenario. First of all, there is a situation presented, and after the situation, so it gives us 3 bullet points that we need to answer them through our response. These are called the bullet points that we have, and then the the person we are supposed to send and the subject of our email, and then there is the space to write and type our answers. And we'll have 7 minutes to write or do all the task in just 7 minutes. So, in tonight's session, we'll focus more on brainstorming or finding out uh, the right idea to write or simply generate ideas to write a good email. That would be our purpose. So, before going to that, let's get into the analysis of this prompt, and then we'll go ahead with the step by step brainstorming and the techniques to brainstorm and generate ideas. First of all, let's read this. Here we have the scenario, the situation where the scenario which we are supposed to write the email based on it. And so let's read. You are a student in Professor Kim's sociology class. Last week you submitted your midterm essay via the class website. Yesterday, you checked your grade and were surprised to see it was much lower than you expected. So it is the scenario, the situation. When you opened the file that was graded, you realized it was an older draft of your essay, not the final version. You still have the correct final version saved on your computer. So here it introduces a scenario to the Professor Kim's sociology class. Okay, and the student was not able to submit the final draft of the essay. Instead, he or she has mistakenly submitted the first draft, and now he or she is requesting to have a change in the grade. So this is the scenario, the situation. So now what does it ask to write in our email? Write an email to Professor Kim. In your email, do the following. First, clearly explain the problem and how you noticed that the wrong version was graded. How you noticed the wrong version was graded. This is the first bullet point, and in our email response, we have to include this point of information. First of all, we clearly explain the problem, and then we will write down how we faced or noticed this kind of problem of the wrong version grade. Second bullet point asks us, ask if you can send the final version and have your grade changed. So this is the second thing we need to do in our email. The third is ask when you can expect a reply. So this is the third bullet point that we have. And here, as we have discussed, there's no fixed word limitation. We can write as much as we can in complete sentences. So this is what we have as the scenario. The scenario of the email or the prompt we need to answer. Now let's get into brainstorming. First of all, the first step is to understand the situation clearly. Because before writing anything, we have to find out what the scenario is telling. We have to find out the answer to these basic questions. What are these basic questions? In our writing before actually we write our response, we have to always be careful of the recipient. Ask ourselves, who is the recipient to this email? Secondly, why I'm writing this email. The recipient on the test, usually it's given because we will know who we write, but the reason when we say why I'm writing this email should be clarified by the writer. The purpose of the writing. It can be requesting a change, it can be asking for clarification, it can be asking for an extension. So a variety of purposes could be possible in writing an email. It is based on the prompt, and we will decide the reason or the purpose of our email based on the prompt, based on the situation and the bullet points given to answer. So the second question we need to answer is, why am I writing that specific email? The third thing, which is very important, is the desired outcome. The desired outcome simply refers to the notion or idea that what the writer expects the result would be. Or when we write our email, what do we want the reader to do for us? What we want the reader to perform as the response to our email, or simply what we expect the reader at the final step. So that's what we have as the desired outcome. Find out what is the desired outcome. So these are basic questions. Who is the recipient? Why I'm writing the email? And what is the desired outcome? These are three basic questions that we need to understand before writing a specific email. Because if you know these three basic points, we can easily go and step ahead to the next parts. So here we had the prompt. We had this prompt, right? Let's answer these three questions here. So who is the recipient? The recipient is Professor Kim. So it is a professor. Then we need to choose the tune of our language. Secondly, so why am I writing? So here we have to find out, why am I writing the email? What is the problem? The problem is here that I have, or the student has uploaded the wrong version of the file. The wrong version is submitted. So that's the problem. Now, what does the writer wants to do? The writer wants to find out whether the professor allows him to regrade or change his grade and send the final version instead. So that's the thing that he or she wants. So here the prompt is, your assignment was graded incorrectly. So who is the recipient? The professor. Why? The wrong file was submitted. And what do I want? It means the desired outcome. Reconsider my grade. This is the first step in going ahead with a good email writing, understanding the situation. So let's go ahead to the next part. The second thing is, identify the required actions. The required action. What we are supposed to do in our email. That's called the required action. Usually on the test, we are given 3 bullet points. Okay. Rarely we have 4, but 3. So 3 bullet points that we need to answer and put them in our email. So what are, for example, in this email, what does it ask us to do? So here usually we have 3. So I just added here 4 to explain it more. Explain the problem and ask to send the correct version. So here we have, ask if the grade can be reconsidered. So this is the Third point, ask when to expect a reply. These are the bullet points that here it is asked. As you can see here, we have it. These are the actions required to do in our email. So the bullet points are very, very significant in our email response. If we don't go and miss even one of them, it highly affects your score. So that's very important in order to find it. So the third step, after finding the required action, we can go ahead with a method for planning to have this academic email in an exam. So the technique or the method which is commonly used is called the peer planning method. So what is peer planning method? Peer planning, P is taken from purpose. When writing the email, first of all, write down the purpose of your email. Why you are writing the email. Write that. As an example, regarding to this response, we can have such kind of response to show the purpose. I am writing regarding the midterm essay grade posted yesterday. It shows the purpose of your email, and it is usually the first sentence you write your email. So it is the purpose sentence. It is the first part. Peer, P stands for purpose. The second is the explanation. After writing the purpose, explain the situation clearly. Clearly explain what is the problem and what happened or anything that the bullet point asks you to do. So explain that one. Especially here we had explain the problem and then ask how you noticed the incorrect file submission. So here in explanation, we have to explain the situation based on the bullet points given. As an example, we can say, upon reviewing the graded file, so we can explain this way. I noticed that the document evaluated appears to be an earlier draft. It is explanation to the situation we have in that prompt, the prompt of submitting the essay. So it is the explanation. E stands for explanation. After writing the purpose, we have to explain the situation clearly. The next is the action request. It is the next part of peer planning method. The action request simply means that what we want the reader to do. What is our request that the reader do it after reading the email? As an example, we can request a specific action like this. I would greatly appreciate it if I could submit the correct version for reconsideration. So this is the action requested. We use a specific wording to show this action request. It is the third important part of peer planning. So A stands for the action request, and R is the response expectation. When writing an email, at the end, try to politely ask for a reply. Ask politely. For example, we may have, please let me know when I might expect your response. So this is the response expectation. You are asking politely for a reply at the end of your email. So overall, we can organize our email this way. We'll state, first of all, the purpose of our email. Why are we writing the email? we have to answer this question. Second, explain the situation as requested in the bullet points. Explain it. Explain clearly under what condition you are writing the email. Third, explain and mention what you want the reader to do or the action you want to request. Write them. And finally, write a response expectation at the end as well. So these are the four important parts of writing an email. It's called peer planning. Purpose, explanation, action request, and response expectation. These are the important parts. Now, sometimes it happens that still you struggle to find out the purpose, to find out the explanation section, and other important parts. So, often there could be a quick method to brainstorm, and that's called the 4W method. Often we can use it to brainstorm first of all, and then we can go ahead with a quick outline of peer planning method. So it happens. We could not find the idea, we could not generate idea, so we can ask ourselves these questions. So what are the questions? In every prompt, ask yourself, what happened? For example, here, the wrong draft was graded. Secondly, we can ask, why did it happen? Why did it happen? Try to find the answer. Read the prompt, find the answer to it. So here as an example, in that prompt we had at the beginning, the student uploaded the incorrect file. It was the reason it happened. The next is, what proof do I have? Or similar questions that may have the same purpose. What proof do I have? Or what can I do? Or what is possible to do for me? Okay, these are similar questions that you can ask yourself in this part, as the third part. As an example here, the final version saved on the computer. This is the proof. This is what the student can do right now. Submit the final version which is saved on the computer. So the solution is that. What solution do I suggest? Or what can I suggest to do? Here, send the correct version for review. Look, when we put all these answers together, we can go ahead with the outline we had as the peer planning method. We can outline them like this. So we can have a 4-sentence outline to address these issues. When you put together, it will be a response, a complete email. For example, here we mentioned the purpose. I'm writing in connection with my midterm essay grade. Then explain it. Upon reviewing the graded file, I realized that an earlier draft was submitted. I would be grateful if I could send the final version for reconsideration. Please let me know when I might expect your response. So it is an outline. We can add other details regarding to the bullet points given into the prompt. We can add, we can delete, we can bring changes based on the prompt. So this is what we have as the overall procedure. Okay, first we ask ourselves some questions to generate ideas, like what happened, why did it happen, what can I do now, what solution can I suggest. These questions, find the answer to these questions using the prompt, ask about it. Then you can make a quick outline of the email and then write the purpose, write the explanation, write the request, the action you want the reader to do, and the response expectation. which is the peer planning method. So overall, it's the way we can do. Now, the next thing is when we are using that method to outline, we need specific functional expressions to write. We need a specific word bank or phrase bank to clearly state our purpose, to clearly state our explanation, and the other sections needed in writing a response. So there are common word banks and phrase bank that we can use for writing. For example, in order to state your purpose for your email, you can say, I'm writing regarding. You can add the rest of the detail there. I'm writing regarding, or I'm writing in connection with, or I'm writing to express, I'm writing to request. These are opening phrases to start our email. Then when it comes to explanation or the situation to explain, we can use these phrases. Upon reviewing my essay, I noticed, and then you can add. Or it appears that, I have noticed that. So these are explanation or explaining phrases we can use. When you request an action or request the reader to do something for you, you can say, I would appreciate it if, and then you can explain the request. I would be most grateful if, then we can have the phrases. And finally, when we close our email, we can say, thank you for your time and consideration. Or similarly, you can say, I look forward to your response. These are very common, reliable phrase bank that we can use. So the final step is, after writing our email using those phrase bank, using the method we had as the outline and generation of ideas, before submitting our email, we have to check it. There are 5-point checklist, as you can see here, and before submitting, we have to check, did we complete this checklist or not? So before submission, find out the checklist here. This checklist is very important. The first one, all task instructions answered. When you write your email, so you have to answer the bullet points. So before submitting, before sending your email, check out, are all the bullet points answered or not? If there is missing something, add it. If there is something extra, remove it. So do or organize the email based on the prompt. And if there is anything missing, try to add there. So that's the first thing. It checks the task fulfillment. Second is, did you explain the situation clearly? A reader who doesn't know the context should still understand. Because when you don't explain the situation clearly, your reader will not understand. What do you want? What's your situation? Under what condition are you writing? So explain the situation clearly. Third checklist point is using polite and specific request. Look, politeness is a really important part of writing an email. It's actually part of formality. When we are writing, we have to use the formal language, the right specific expressions to indicate politeness. If you're writing informal, implied sentences, implied request, so that's not graded well. So state exactly what you need the reader to do. That's the next part of it. So formal tone maintained, we have to use formal language. For example, it should not include contractions. It should not include slangs or informal vocabulary. Avoid using any of them. As an example, let's say we may have doesn't, so it is contraction. Okay, instead, what should we use? Does not, or can't, it's contraction. So in formal emails, we better avoid using these contractions. Or slangs, words that they're very common among specific group of people, and it is not a general word. And finally, we may have a closing sentence included. So these are the 5 checklist points we need to consider while submitting our response. And before doing that, we have to check these important things. So let's look at a sample email, how it looks. We have had the prompt, so it is in response to that prompt. Let me go back to the prompt once again and see. This was the prompt, right? Here, so we have noticed the situation. We've read that one. The bullet points, what should we do? Clearly explain the problem and how you noticed that the wrong version was graded. It is our first bullet point. Second, ask if you can send the final version and have your grade changed. Second bullet point, we need to answer in our email. Third, ask when you can expect a reply. This is the third bullet point, and it is so the situation we have had. Now let's look at the answer we have here. Do we have all those parts or not? Do we have purpose, explanation, action requested, and response expectation or not? So let's check it. It starts with a greeting, so it's always necessary to have a greeting. We can say, Dear Professor Kane. Dear Professor Kane. So that's greeting. I'm writing regarding the midterm essay grade posted yesterday. It clearly explains the purpose of writing the essay, writing the email here. So, what's the main topic? Midterm essay grade posted yesterday regarding to this issue. Now it explains the situation, how it happened. Upon means when? Upon reviewing the graded document, I noticed that the file evaluated appears to be an earlier draft rather than the final version of my essay. It is the explanation to the situation. Still, it needs clear explanation. It seems that I may have accidentally uploaded the incorrect document when submitting the assignment. The final version, what proof do I have? The final version, which includes several revisions and additional analysis, is still saved on my computer. I would greatly appreciate it if I could send the correct version. Look, it is the action requested. If I could send the correct version for consideration and possible re-evaluation. So from the beginning, we had purpose, then it explained the situation, then it requested the action, and now it says when to expect the reply. Please let me know when I might expect your response. And then we have a closing sentence. Thank you for your time and consideration. It is polite. It has all the bullet points stated in the prompt. It has logical organization. The ideas are logically organized and connected to each other. And it has all the email conventions that is needed. Okay. So this is the final email. So overall, the best thing is we have to follow this formula. Think about it, plan, and then write. This is the final key formula we can use. So now it's time to practice.